Hello and welcome to the Earth SciShow podcast, where we explore the latest discoveries and news in Earth science. I'm your host, Mr. Earth Guy, and today we'll be talking about the massive volcanic eruption that happened in Tonga earlier last year. You probably remember spectacular images and videos of the huge plume of ash and gas that rose into the stratosphere, or the shockwaves that circled the globe and triggered tsunami waves across the Pacific Ocean. But do you know what actually caused this eruption, how powerful it was, and what impacts it had on the islands of Tonga and beyond? Well, in this episode, we'll dive into a recently published article in Science Advances by a team of researchers who used satellite data, field observations, and tsunami simulations to unravel the mysteries of this extraordinary event. And more amazingly, how this particular eruption created the first mega tsunami on record since antiquity. And don't forget, if you enjoy this kind of material, please consider subscribing and following. Helping me spread this information across the world is something I'm really passionate about. So without further ado, let's begin. So what actually happened on January the 15th, 2022? Well, according to the article, there was a submarine volcano called Tonga that had been dormant since 2015. On that day, it suddenly exploded with a series of blasts that were so powerful that they created a crater island above the sea's surface, ejected debris up to 50 kilometers high into the atmosphere, and generated shockwaves that were detected by barometers and seismometers around the world. The largest blast had an explosive yield of 15 megatons, which is equivalent to about 1,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs. That's pretty impressive, right? But that's not all. The blast also displaced a huge amount of seawater, creating conventional tsunami waves that traveled across the ocean at speeds of up to 200 meters per second. These waves reached heights of around 45 meters on some islands near the volcano, causing widespread damage and flooding. The authors used numerical models to simulate how these waves propagated through the complex bathymetry and topography of the Tongan Islands, and compared their results to 118 wave run-up measurements that they obtained from satellite imagery, drone surveys, and fieldwork. They found that their model matched well with most of the observations, except for some areas where the waves were either over or under attenuated by shallow water or reefs. The authors also discussed some of the factors that influenced the severity and distribution of the tsunami impacts. For example, they noted that the location of Tonga relative to urban centers saved Tonga from a worse outcome. Had the Tonga volcano been closer to the capital city of Tonga, or if it erupted in a different direction, the tsunami waves could have been much more devastating. They also pointed out that the Tonga is not unique in its capacity to produce large explosions and tsunamis. There are many other submarine volcanoes along oceanic arcs that could potentially erupt in a similar way in the future. Therefore, they argued that the volcanic eruption of Tonga is an excellent natural laboratory to test hypotheses and models that can help better understand and prepare for these hazards. Thanks for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this podcast and there was enough information there which kept you thinking and kept you curious. Don't forget to follow or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next podcast.